So, Marty, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, we are going to start out by having you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and your role at your company.
Okay. Yeah, I am the IT operations manager at Swimlane, and I've been here for about 4.5 years. And I was Swimlane's first internal IT guy. So since then, the team has grown to four of us, myself included. And Swimlane basically just builds security automation software. And so we've basically adopted JumpCloud as our primary IDP, and it is the source of identity at Swimlane.
Great. How big is Swimlane now?
We're about 285 people, and we keep kind of having these growth spurts, and then we might lose some, and then we have another growth spurt. So, but as of right now, today we're 285.
Great. Awesome. What was the challenge your company was facing that led you to considering JumpCloud? I guess it was just you at first, right?
It was, and it was the Wild West. There was no controls, there was no onboarding workflow, there was literally nothing. It all had to be invented. And the one thing that attracted me to JumpCloud was the fact that they supported Windows, Mac, and Linux workstations. And at the time, I had more Linux workstations than I do now. But that's what really solidly attracted me to JumpCloud right at first. And I started with the free trial of JumpCloud, the free 10 users, which is absolutely the way to go. And I started, playing around with it and really saw the power that was there. We had it wasn't really on-prem. It was AWS hosted Active Directory server that was old and nobody really wanted to manage anymore. It was the Wild West, and the other goal that JumpCloud definitely helped me achieve was the ability to decommission that Active Directory box.
Great. So tell me more about the why you're calling it the Wild Wild West. Was it kind of like a bunch of shadow IT, or just you just didn't have control of everything and you really kind of needed to pull things in?
All of the above, yes. And like people would literally just go down to Best Buy and buy a computer and set it up themselves. There was no standards, there was no nothing. Like there was no password enforcement, there was no, disk encryption, there was nothing. Like it was just the Wild West. It's early days of a startup.
Yeah, I hear you on that. So you've told us a little bit about your company's environment. So let's talk about that a little more. You said you had about 285 employees and you had a little bit of Active Directory before you started with JumpCloud. Um, do you have any kind of productivity suite that you use today?
Yeah, we use Google Workspace, and like that was something that um, integrates really well with JumpCloud, and it allows us to create users like in JumpCloud, and that user appear in our Google Workspace, and so that was the other part of JumpCloud that really made my job easier, especially in the early days, is that you guys integrated with all of our tools, and just having those integrations already built where I don't have to reinvent the wheel was pretty instrumental especially when you're the only IT guy.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't have someone to walk over to and go, hey, how about this? How about that? It's just
Exactly.
it's you figuring it out. What other resources do you manage? Like you say you're managing their PCs and things like that, but do you manage any infrastructure and applications and things like that?
Oh yeah, like so IT and me and my team are like the key holders. So we manage all of our SSOs. We use JumpCloud SSO extensively. We currently have almost 80, I believe, applications in JumpCloud configured for SSO of some kind. And we have a bunch more that use LDAP or something that ties into the directory as well. And we do have some on-prem hardware. We run a vSphere cluster on-prem, which ties back into JumpCloud via LDAP. And so, other than that, like we don't run a whole lot of on-prem hardware. Nearly everything is cloud-based. And we have actual like SRE teams and infrastructure teams to handle all of the cloud, the cloud activities.
Are y'all more of a remote or on-site team, or are you a little bit of hybrid or any of combo?
It depends on the region. We have a headquarters in Louisville, Colorado, and we also have a presence in India. We have an Indian office as well. But largely about 90% of the company is full remote, which means a very distributed workforce. And JumpCloud makes it really easy to like onboard those computers in remote locations, and have the same controls and granularity that we have even with our people that do report into an office.
Mhm. Do you find yourself more heavily leaning toward Windows or Macs at this point?
We are about 70% Mac OS. We're a very heavy engineering company, and our engineering department has standardized on MacBooks as our hardware of choice. And so, yeah, we're about 70% Mac OS. We're about 29% Windows, and we have like exactly one Linux machine left.
So are you using zero touch deployment when you are deploying your Macs?
Definitely. Yeah, we are we've onboarded with JumpCloud MDM, and all of our MacBooks are enrolled in Apple Business Manager, which of course facilitates the zero touch workflow. And then as IT, we've further customized our zero touch workflow by having some JumpCloud commands that automatically execute on a system when it's enrolled, just to further install our software and configure things.
That's great. That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
Um, so actually that leads into, I was going to ask you about controls on your devices and what, key policies or custom commands you have. So are there any others in addition to that where you find yourselves using those frequently?
Yes, we make extensive use of JumpCloud commands. That's our primary method of like pushing out one-off pieces of software or software that requires some like additional steps to install or prepare the environment for. And then we've abbreviated a bunch of installs for certain teams. For instance, I have a technical like master install script that does like 10 or 11 or 12 different formerly manual tasks of setting up the software, installing things, compiling like OpenSSL, and like it does all kinds of things that basically just prepares the environment for somebody that would be in engineering or one of our more technical roles. And that way I know everything is standardized, everything is exactly the same from machine to machine, and I can write documentation based around the way that those were installed and rolled out. And it's literally just one click for me. I can assign it to a system and hit go, and it does the thing.
Have you tried any of the dynamic groups or dynamic devices yet to kind of see if that will allow you to do the same thing, but using just popping people into the groups like that? Or
Yes. So we use dynamic groups in a couple of different ways. One of those is like, for instance, when we enroll a MacBook, when the MacBook first enrolls in MDM, it gets assigned a staging group. And then on that staging group, we have configured the trigger for the master onboarding command to run, and I think it's configured to run like once every 10 minutes or something. And so our documentation says, wait 15 real world Earth minutes and keep your computer alive, and you'll see it reboot at the end, which is signals the end of our script running. Um, and so yeah, we use dynamic groups that way, and then we also have some policies that are required to apply to like a minimum version of the OS. And so we'll set up like device groups, for instance, where we match like the minimum OS version, and it applies, the membership of that device into this particular group, and then membership into that particular group inherits the policies that we've applied that require that minimum version.
Oh, that's great. That's really good to hear. Our PM that runs that will be glad to hear that use case there and how you're putting it together.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Um, do you integrate with any HRIS for your typical onboarding?
So yes and no. We have we have Bamboo HR that we like integrate with from HR to IT, but the integration is currently not running through JumpCloud. It's currently actually running through our own software, and we do a lot of sanity checks, and we do a lot of you just we have a bunch of checks and balances in there, because a lot of the time what we've been getting from our HR teams has been data that maybe has been submitted from like a potential candidate or something. And sometimes that data needs sanitization or some sort of, sanity checks and logic around it. And so instead of integrating directly with Bamboo HR into the JumpCloud platform, we kind of do it by our own software, to where we can add in a bunch of the sanity checks to make sure we're not blowing up something in our JumpCloud org.
Yeah, it sounds like if it's kind of pre-hire, then you don't want to add it too soon,
Exactly.
perhaps.
And sometimes like the names will be entered in all caps, and the username or the email address that they've requested doesn't match our naming convention, and there's a lot of edge cases there.
Yeah, makes sense. Um, are you using JumpCloud for any compliance mandates?
Absolutely. So we enforce like a lot of our policies with JumpCloud, using the policy manager, things like, disk encryption and like mandatory like screensaver timeouts, and the fact that we have to re-authenticate after a certain amount of time. Yeah, we make extensive use of the reporting and the system insights and things like that for compliance checks.
Great. Are there any particular, if you can share, are there any particular compliance mandates that you use it for, like ISO 27001 or something like that, that you're using it to qualify for?
Both ISO 27001 and SOC 2 are our primary ones. And we're currently working towards several more, including like FedRamp and some things like that. So yeah, JumpCloud is absolutely instrumental in that, because it gives the auditors insight into our security posture as it pertains to like our endpoints and workstations.
Yeah, and doing what you say you're doing, right? Like showing, yeah, we say we're doing this, and yeah, we're actually doing it. Because I think
Yep.
that's where a lot of people get caught up, right?
And
They,
and I can show you that like all of our users are running as standard users, and nobody is an admin by default. Things like that. JumpCloud is instrumental in helping us provide.
you mentioned insights, so I was going to ask you, like directory and system insights. How else are you using those?
So we basically rely on directory insights as more or less an audit log. And we make extensive use of that from an audit log standpoint, but it also helps to try to troubleshoot any issues that we may be having. Like it'll tell us sometimes like a reason why an SSO login failed, or it'll tell us why maybe computer spontaneously rebooted. Oh, well, there was an update or something. So yeah, we rely on it pretty heavily. I wouldn't say it's an everyday thing that we're in there looking at logs, but it's definitely several times a week.
Great. Are there any other security features that you do use? Like you mentioned TOTP, like MFA or conditional access, or even maybe with some of your folks, do you actually go with a zero trust stance?
So kind of a mix of all of the above. We require 100% across the board MFA on every JumpCloud login. So as long as somebody is logging in to the JumpCloud console, MFA is required. We also use conditional policies. We're kind of currently ramping up our utilization of conditional access policies, and we're combining that with our zero trust architecture that we're also rolling out as well. We've adopted Cloudflare Zero Trust as our platform of choice there, and we have some dedicated egress IPs, and everybody in the company is required to be on Cloudflare's Zero Trust network in order to authenticate with some of our more sensitive items, some of our more sensitive SSO buttons. So anything that, like for instance, recently, ConnectWise announced the breach with like a Screen Connect instance, being vulnerable to a certain type of attack. Well, the only authentication mechanism we allow on our Screen Connect instance is JumpCloud SSO, and JumpCloud SSO requires the conditional access policy to basically pass in order to allow that authentication. And so we have to be on Cloudflare Warp and coming from one of the dedicated egress IPs in order for the JumpCloud SSO button for Screen Connect to allow us into the application.
That's great. And do you also have a lot of it set where like, hey, you can't even get into this if you're not on a JumpCloud managed device and things like that?
Correct. Yes. We're actually, that'll probably be a next quarter goal for us, but we will actually be rolling that out across the board for nearly every service that we do SSO with.
Awesome. And let's see, one or two more. Are there any results that you're particularly proud of since you've implemented JumpCloud?
I would say just the pace at which we're able to innovate, and the pace at which we're able to achieve, our compliance goals. Like we've done so many compliance goals right now. We actually have a dedicated compliance officer that has a read-only admin account into our JumpCloud so that he can, help the auditors verify compliance. And JumpCloud has made it just absolutely as easy as possible from an IT perspective to verify compliance on all of our workstations. I mean, it's what you see is what you get. And it absolutely wouldn't ever have been as easy to achieve like a single pane of glass view of our entire infrastructure without JumpCloud.
Wow, that's awesome. Glad to hear that. And one last thing would just be, what advice would you give someone who's considering JumpCloud?
So I've been asked this question before, and my answer is always the same. Take advantage of the free trial. You get 10 users for free. And what I do is what a lot of top level sysadmins do, and they home lab it. They use it at their house. And so I have a separate JumpCloud org that I use to control, my computer, my wife's computer, my kids' computers in my house. And that allows me to like demo, it gives me a dev environment, so to speak, that doesn't affect or impact my entire company and instead might inconvenience only myself or maybe my kids. And so that's the absolute best piece of advice that I would recommend for anybody considering JumpCloud. Give it a shot. Try it at home, and you can roll it out slowly. And I think the more you use it, the more potential you'll see that it has, and you'll see the implications that it can have on your place of work as well.
That's great. Thank you so much for
Of course.
your time today. It has been awesome to talk to you, and we appreciate all the things you're doing with JumpCloud, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Great. Thank you for having me.